Greetings.
What is going on, people of the internets and stuff?
You need to wake up and see this lie you're living in, man! Okay, that was freaking random.
Yeah, a little bit now.
But that was also Bray Wyatt.
Bray Wyatt from WWE, the Wyatt family.
Yep. Okay, now we are starting Chapter 7 in Silent Ponyville 2. So we don't want to chew your heads off anymore. We've done that for 25 seconds. Let's get on with this.
Alright, you will read, and I will sit here and listen
and look at other things.
Look at porn. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, he is. Chapter 7. The heat finally got to her. Once she had cried what felt like all she could cry, she moved slowly out of the burning room. Her only path was to exit out of the door she had come in through. She pushed open the surprisingly cool door and walked through, the door closing shut behind her. The cool air struck her coat, causing her whole body to feel a bit of relaxation as her temperature cooled. She wiped her face, sniffing as she continued to try and regain her composure. Dash's words still had a strong grip on her heart. I can't stop now, Fluttershy gulped back more tears from spilling. I have to move forward. And then I'll scroll down a bit more. There we go. She looked into the room at the end of the hallway, expecting to see the pacing nurse. However, the room wasn't the same as the one she had just come from. The room before her was a small square room with a staircase going up before her. Fluttershy blinked at the sight, but the twisting, wrapping rooms had become something she was accustomed to by now. She stepped across the room, quickly reaching the staircase. She slowly began her climb upwards, feeling a sense of déjà vu upon the climb. Her hooves nearly slipped on the slick steps as the stench of mildew hit her nose once more.
Yuck.
Water dripped down the walls as she felt a sense of dread. Suddenly, as she reached the top of the stairwell, she knew where she was. She was back in the cloud home she had entered when she was first separated from her friends. Only it wasn't a random cloud house anymore. Oh no. It was her room from when she was a filly. The room she had just entered was her mother's room from when she was young. The same bed sat next to the window so she could look out at the bookshelf that contained books she'd read in her bed. The bedside table held her personal belongings.
Your mom's
What? What? Hold on, I'll be right back.
He's gonna put his dog out. I'll keep you entertained. So how you doing? You do anything cool lately? Did you get around to writing that novel? You know that novel that you were gonna write? That novel? That novel that you were gonna write about 2 days ago? That novel? You ever get around that novel? That bloody novel? I can't even talk anymore. My head hurts. I sound like an idiot. I'm looking at porn. I'm just kidding. Are you gonna write that one? Oh, there he is.
So what did you do to entertain these people?
Asked them if they started writing their novel or not. Are you gonna write that novel?
Yeah, I'm gonna write that novel. Yeah, we'll talk some friends become enemies, some enemies become friends. Yeah.
Okay, enough of that.
No. Personal belongings and a desk and a chair. The bathroom just a short walk away. Everything she'd been needing for living in her room while sick. Fluttershy was drawn towards the bed. A force felt like it was guiding her, telling her to go near it. Her mind felt like a haze flew past it. As she stepped back, she saw blood flash before her eyes on the bed and on the carpet, as if her mind was trying to reject the images. But there would be no stopping them. Her head began to ache with pain, but she couldn't stop the memories. Her attention was drawn to the bed as the memories that she had lost came back in full force, making her remember what happened in the room so long ago. Mother? Philly Fluttershy called out, walking into her mother's room. Her mother sat on the bed, a knife in her hoof as she was playing with it. Her hair was messy, unkempt, and uncared for. Bags were under her bloodshot eyes, and she seemed to be glaring at the knife, as if unhappy with it. Mother? Fluttershy whimpered, walking further into the room. What would you like to eat today? Her mother suddenly burst out laughing. Fluttershy halted her movements forward, looking up at her mother in shock. The older mare just seemed to have found something funny. "Oh, yes, that'll do nicely," the older mare smiled when she'd finished laughing. Turning her head to grin at her daughter, Fluttershy couldn't move, afraid of what her mother was about to do. "Come closer, my daughter," her mother said, twisting her body closer to the edge of her bed. Fluttershy began to hesitantly move closer to the bed. "I said close!" Fluttershy's mom began to yell, but suddenly fell from the bed, hitting the ground with a thud. "Mother!" Fluttershy cried out as she ran to her mother's side, trying to ensure she was okay. Her mother groaned, but slowly rolled over onto the other side so that she was facing her daughter. Once she could see her face, a wicked smile crawled onto her face. There we go. "My dearest daughter. Oh, you came at just the right time. You see, I finally figured it out. I figured out how to cure myself." Her mother gave another short laugh. "Really? Oh, Mother, that's good news. I have to tell No, you can't tell your father yet," her mother hissed. "Why not?" Fluttershy asked, confused. "Because only you can administer the treatment right now."
I know what she's gonna do.
Oh no. Her mother laughed, carefully holding the knife up to Fluttershy. "And you'll need this to cure me." Fluttershy gingerly took the knife in her hoof, staring at it confused. "I do it myself, but I'm far too weak to administer the treatment properly. But oh, you can do it just fine," her mother laughed. "And you want me to be cured, right? Cured and happy?" Of course I do. But what do I..." Fluttershy began to ask in confusion, but her mother seemed ready to answer. "That's simple, my dear child. You take the knife, and you strike me with it," her mother smiled. Fluttershy froze. That didn't sound right at all. She knew that something as sharp as a knife would hurt you when you grazed its edge. Why would striking her mother cure her illness? "But, Mother, that... Are you questioning me?" Her mother glared at her. Fluttershy's skin jumped at the glare. No, but... That sounds like you're questioning me," her mother growled. If she could move with any decent strength, she'd have smacked her daughter. "I need you to do this for me. Only you can do it right now. You do love me, right?" That pulled on Fluttershy's heart. Of course I do, Mother." "Then strike me," her mother demanded. Fluttershy took a gulp as she shakily raised the knife up over her head. She didn't want to bring it down. Her mind was telling her that doing this was wrong. The knife hovered in the air, unable to strike it down. "Fluttershy?" Her mother spoke quietly, coldly. "Yes?" Fluttershy whimpered, still holding the knife up. "You said you loved me, but you haven't struck me with the knife yet. So you lied to me," her mother said bitterly. "No, I do." "Then strike me," her mother yelled at her, making Fluttershy almost jump. "Strike me! Strike me! Love me! You're going to love me!" Her mother's head snapped up off the ground, her mouth open as if to bite down on Fluttershy. The knife sailed through the air, embedding itself into her mother's side. Her mother's eyes went wide for a moment before the wicked grin returned. "Yes, yes, yes! Do it again!" she demanded with a yell. Fluttershy pulled the knife out and slammed it back down into her mother. "Don't stop!" were the last words Fluttershy heard from her mother. The knife rose and sank down into her body again and again and again. Each strike sent blood flying. Her fur was being coated and her mane was drenched. Each strike sounded deafening, yet it was one of the quietest sounds in the world. as if the very knife was screaming at her, but she could only hear the screams of the blade. She plunged the knife in one last time. She panted, she cried, she shook. Her mother wasn't moving anymore. She wasn't speaking, she wasn't breathing, and she wasn't warm anymore. Fluttershy didn't know what this meant. Had she cured her mother like she had asked? Hadn't she put her through a lot of pain? Was she going to be alright? Fluttershy, you haven't got that answer from your mother yet. Her father walked into the room. Fluttershy slowly turned, tears streaming down her face, still holding the knife covered in her mother's blood, sitting before the corpse of her mother. The air was silent. Then her father drew closer. Father, Fluttershy hiccuped, trying to say something, anything to explain the sight before her father. However, she was silenced. Her father's hoof struck her hard. The small body went sailing across the room and smashed into the wall. She let out a yelp of pain before hitting the ground. Her father picked up her mother's head in his hoof and began to cry. Tears streamed down her face. I killed my mother, Fluttershy whimpered. I killed. She cried. She couldn't believe she had done it, but she had done it.
That was my prediction from the beginning of it.
All because her mother had yelled at her. Because she had been too weak to disobey her mother. Fluttershy felt her stomach twist. She felt like she was going to be sick. She turned and ran into the bathroom, wanting to escape the room for even a moment. However, her brain assaulted her once more, a vision of memories forgotten appearing before her once more. There was silence as her father scrubbed away at her coat, washing away any blood that had begun to cake onto her fur. The hot water was managing to get most of it away, but some of it was being stubborn. He was being hard with the brush, harder than he ever had before. Fluttershy didn't speak up, though. She couldn't speak up against it. Her heart felt like it was in a million pieces. Do you know what you've done? Her father finally asked. Fluttershy whimpered her response. She couldn't say any words. You took your mother from us, her father said, as if his breathing was becoming more ragged, the brush stopping its cleaning. You took the most wonderful mare I'd ever known, out of this world. He gripped the brush harder and started to speak through gritted teeth. You did it so quickly, too. I sent you in to help her, and you killed her. Fluttershy's eyes burned with tears, her father's words making her heart sting worse. You're a monster, he growled. Without warning, he pushed her head down under the water. Fluttershy scrambled at the unexpected movement, her mouth and nose filling with water as air escaped her lungs. Her hoofs filled as she tried to push herself up out of the water, but the hoop holding her down was too strong. The air escaped her quickly and her lungs began to burn. She reached for air, but it wouldn't come. Suddenly, she was lifted up into the air. Instinctively, she took a big gasp of air, only for her head to be shoved back under the water. She lost her air almost instantly again, her whole body beginning to feel like it was burning from the movements. This repeated several times, getting a short breath of air only to have it painfully taken away by the water once more. Her struggling had lessened and now was too weak to push against the water, too tired to try and get air. Get air. The hoop was holding her under the water for good now. Her eyes began to roll into the back of her head as her limbs stopped moving. She couldn't stay awake any longer. She was pulled out of the water. Her body gasped and took in the fresh air before coughing up water that had filled her lungs. She puked slightly as her body tried to eject the water that had attacked her body. No. No, just killing you would be too easy, her father growled, watching her sputter and gasp for breath. You need to understand the misery you've caused with your love. Her father let go of her mane. Fluttershy instinctively catching herself on the edge of the bathtub, still recovering as her father walked out. Fluttershy shook as she stared at the bathroom. Her father had tried to kill her. He could have killed her, but he didn't. Though she felt like she deserved it at that moment, she had killed her mother in cold blood. Death sounded exactly like what she deserved. She backed out of the bathroom slowly. She didn't want to be in that room anymore. She turned to the door into the hallway and quickly exited. She panted heavily outside her mother's bedroom as her tears refused to stop. She slowly hobbled forward, having difficulty seeing even where she was going. She reached a hoof up, touching what felt like a door. Without thinking it, she pushed it open, stepping inside. So, you sewed it back together, huh? Her father said, looking at the sloppy sewing job her daughter had done with her favorite doll. Yes, sir, Fluttershy replied meekly, lowering her head as her father held it. He wasn't impressed at all. All the stitches were visible. The stuffing was still hanging out in spots not sewn close enough, and fibers would easily come loose if tugged on. Unacceptable, he said before grabbing the doll and tearing it apart. Fluttershy snapped her head up in shock as she watched. He tore out all the seams and stitches she had worked so hard on, making the doll one piece again after he'd torn it up the first time. Soon the doll lay in pieces of cloth and stuffing before her again. If you love it, I shall destroy it, he said sternly. Then it will be your job to put it back together. And if you can't do it perfectly, then you don't deserve it at all, he said as he walked over to his bookshelf. Fluttershy whimpered as she began to pick up the pieces of her favorite, most beloved doll, her doll Ashley. God, her father was a jerk.
Well, when you think about it, she killed her mother. Even though her mother asked her to do it, her father's blaming her.
Yeah, but still, even before that, he was a jerk.
Yeah, but I know people who've had this happen to them. Well, I've seen stories about it where a little kid accidentally killed someone in the family, and her father or mother treated them like dirt until finally they killed him or her. There was a story not too long ago where a little boy was being tortured by his father, and he couldn't take it anymore. One day, while his dad was sleeping, he loaded 6 shots into a shotgun and blew his brains out.
Wow. The book slammed itself before her, making Fluttershy almost jump, but she read the title carefully. The Mastery of Sewing. If you don't want to see your doll destroyed, you will make it look perfect, her father said before returning to his desk, going back to his work. When she had all the pieces of her doll, Fluttershy carefully picked up the book with her mouth, careful not to stain it with her tears as she quickly left her father's study. Fluttershy whimpered. She was in her father's study. She had wandered in there by accident. Now she had seen more of what she had forgotten. She swallowed back more tears as she began to calm herself down. Her mind began to put things together. I wanted to see this. She breathed heavily, reminding herself that she had chosen to come here, that she had told herself there was no turning back now. I have to see every memory. For my sake. She took a deep breath as she wiped her face of tears before pushing back the door to her father's study. Exiting it. She stumbled out of the study a little, finding the kitchen that lay just on the opposite side of it. She steadied herself before walking into the kitchen. The haze returned as another memory surfaced. What do you think you're doing? Her father yelled loudly. Fluttershy dropped the box of cereal she had picked up from the top shelf of the counter, her wings snapping shut to her sides as she fell a few feet before landing on the ground with a thud. Her father was furious as he stormed up to her, Fluttershy trying to back away out of fear. He grabbed her hoof and forced her to eye level with him. What have I told you about flying without permission? You're not allowed to do it even in the house, he yelled at her, gripping her hoof hard. I'm sorry, she cried as tears streamed from her eyes. Her hoof hurt like crazy as she gripped it hard. I've told you before, bad fillies who don't listen to what they're told get eaten by dragons. Do you want to get eaten by a dragon? No, no, Fluttershy cried out, struggling against his grip. Well, you're attracting a dragon by flying as a bad filly. You must want to be eaten by a dragon. Why else would you be flying without permission? His screams made her ears feel like they wanted to burst. No, I don't want to be eaten by a dragon. I'm sorry, she cried harder. Well, you know what? I think I can hear a dragon. He's already pretty close because you've flown. Maybe I should just throw you outside so he can eat you right now, he hissed and growled. No, Daddy, please. I don't want to be eaten, Fluttershy wailed, afraid for her life. Well, if you don't want to be eaten, then there's only one thing I can do, he said, tossing his star to the ground. The wind escaped her body as she tried to scramble to her feet, only to have her father's hoof step holding her down. His mouth reached down, gripping hard on her wing, forcibly extending it despite all of her efforts to shut it. No, no, Daddy, please stop, she cried out as pain shot through her back, but it was too late. He wasn't going to stop.
He broke her wing.
Crack! Fluttershy cried louder than she had before as her father snapped her wing. There, now you won't be flying for a while, and you won't attract any dragons, he simply said, stepping off of his wailing daughter. I snapped it carefully so you'll be able to fly once it's healed. We'll have to get you to the hospital to put a cast on it, he said, though a grin formed on his face. Though only once the dragon has left. Fluttershy barely heard her father's words past her own screams of agony and from the burning pain that echoed from her wing. Fluttershy gulped down more tears, trying to hold herself back from crying. She slowly backed out of the kitchen.
You know, if I were a superhero, this is the kind of guy I would kill. Painfully, too. Very painfully.
I hope we find out her father's name, you know why? Because if we do, I'm going back there and grabbing my death note.
I'm pretty sure he dies in the story.
Well, if he does, good riddance.
Well,
My
this story is pretty heavy, though.
Yeah.
It's tying on your emotions.
My father, he was cruel, she whimpered softly to herself. I can't believe that I made myself forget all of this. It's all painful to remember. She shut her eyes, another tear escaping despite her efforts trying to force herself not to cry. She struggled with her hooves to make herself continue forward. Past the kitchen was the living room. She could see the front door from there. She knew where she needed to head. Her instincts told her so. However, the living room held one more memory that she had to see. The haze returned as her memory came to her once more. Where did you get that? Her father asked as Fluttershy walked through the door, carrying a candy bar in her mouth. Oh, a colt at school gave it to me, she said quietly. He said he liked me and wanted me to have it, she said, gently chewing on the end of the bar, savoring the sweet taste. Oh, he did he? Her father said, walking up to Fluttershy. Fluttershy looked up at her father, taking a step back from him getting so close. Fluttershy fell to the ground as her father's hoof hit her hard across the face. The candy bar slid across the room. Let me tell you something about boys loving you, he growled, grabbing Fluttershy by the mane and picking her up, eliciting yelps of pain from the filly. Colts will only hurt you. They only think of themselves as they want nothing more than to see you suffer, he grinned wickedly. After all, look at me. I love you, and here I am, hurting you, he said before tossing his daughter across the room, her landing hard against the floor. Fluttershy cried as she tried to curl up into a ball, not wanting to be hurt anymore. But I suppose you must really like being hurt if you're going to let a colt like you. Her father grinned, walking up to his daughter, kicking her in the back, causing her to cry out in pain. Any colt that gets close to you will do nothing but hurt you. So I hope you enjoy this for the rest of your life. I'm sure you'll find a colt who loves you even more than I do. Her father laughed before walking off into his study.
That's why she's a lesbian.
I guess. Suddenly Fluttershy whimpered and cried where she was curled up, remembering the colt from school who had given her the candy bar. Suddenly, her mind filled with anger, hate for the colt who had given her the candy bar. All he wanted to do was hurt her. He wanted to get closer so that he could make her cry and suffer just like her father did. I hate colts. Fluttershy whimpered out loud. She vowed herself that she would never like a colt, or let a colt like her, for as long as she lived.
Told you.
I guess so. Another lump came to Fluttershy's throat. My father, he made me hate colts, she thought to herself. But I don't hate them. She knew better now. Not all colts were like her father. Not all of them would want to hurt her just to get close to her. But she still had never had an interest with being a colt. The only pony she had fallen in love with was Rainbow Dash. Do I love Rainbow Dash? For her? Or because she was the only pony who got close to me, that didn't hurt me? Fluttershy found herself confused by her own feelings now. Everything that she had believed had turned upside down in a single moment. It felt like she had just been lying to herself all this time, and everything she had done might have been a mistake.
This is a good friggin' story.
No, she suddenly said to herself firmly. Because of Rainbow Dash, I came to Ponyville. I escaped from my father. I met the best friends I ever had. Friends who cared about me more than anything else. And I fell in love and had a wonderful relationship, she said, looking up at the ceiling as thoughts of her friends came to mind. She remembered so many wonderful moments together with her friends. Picking flowers, going to parties, playing games, sleepovers, tea parties, hanging out, adventuring. She had done so much with her life now, even though she had forgotten all about her foalhood because it was painful. It hadn't stopped her from moving on in her life, from experiencing all the wonders life had to offer. If anything, because her father pushed her away, she found her way into the embrace of the ponies that truly loved her. She took a deep breath before she calmed down. A small smile formed on her face. Yes, even though it all happened, I still have my friends, she said, a warmth sparking inside of her heart. It gave her like strength. She walked through the living room up to the front door of the house. She could see the lock on the door. The lock was with the symbol of a doll on it. She carefully reached into her bag and pulled out the key with the doll symbol on it. The key she had picked up a while ago and still had.
Remind me to never take a trip to Silent Ponyville.
Same with me. She carefully placed the key into the lock, the door letting out a click to let her know it had worked. Though if that did ever happen to me, I hope the Wyatt family will guide me through.
If that ever happened to me, fucking kill me. Okay, just fucking kill me.
She carefully pushed the door open and walked through the door. On the outside was a large open room, almost like a gymnasium. She walked forward to the middle of the room when she stopped. A black fire was burning on the opposite side of the court. The fire only grew, slowly rising into the shape of a pony before the four red eyes appeared on its face, a white mouth opening. It was the dark creature.
You know what I think that dark creature represents? It's probably representing her father.
Probably.
The back of me iPod is amazing.
Fluttershy stared at the creature. She didn't feel a heavy, overbearing presence this time. The creature was still drawing fear from her heart, but it wasn't overwhelming her now. She could stand before this creature now. The creature slowly turned itself around, showing its back to Fluttershy. Fluttershy looked at the creature curiously, not sure of what it was doing. Then, as it turned around, she could see hanging from its mouth was the body of Rainbow Dash. Fluttershy let out a gasp as the creature flicked its head, tossing the body towards Fluttershy. It landed before her, hitting the ground with a thud. Fluttershy reached a hoop out and gently nudged her body. It was cold. Rainbow Dash was dead, killed by the creature before her. Fluttershy stared at the body for a long while, the creature watching her, grinning as it waited. Fluttershy moved her hoof away from the body, a sad look appearing on her face. She turned her head upwards to look at the creature. "Father," she spoke softly. "You were right. The creature does represent her father." "I understand now." She made sure she spoke clearly. "I've done a horrible thing, and it's likely that I can never be forgiven for what I've done. I can't bring the dead back to life, and the blood of my mother is on my hooves." Fluttershy closed her eye for a moment, taking a deep breath before she continued. "I probably deserve all the punishments I received.
No.
No fool should ever have to do what I did. Though it may have been tough living with it and receiving the punishments for my deed, I lived with everything." She smiled softly. "And I've grown up and have a wonderful life now. I've left behind all the things that made me sad, that hurt me, that made me miserable living at home. I have wonderful friends, animals that depend on me, a home I can take care of myself. I found love that didn't hurt me." She smiled softly. Fluttershy carefully stepped over the body before her, walking closer to the dark creature. The smile of the creature faded as it looked down at her as if not amused. Fluttershy came to stand just inches before him, looking up at him, smiling. You brought a lot of pain to me, but I forgive you."
Forgiveness.
She leaned in and nuzzled the chest of the dark creature. The creature let out a roar. "I forgive you for everything. And I thank you. Thank you for letting me find a wonderful life." An orb of bright white light appeared as the air above the two, floating downwards towards Fluttershy. The dark creature roared out in pain as the light gently floated past him, reaching Fluttershy's chest. The light engulfed her body, filling her with a pleasant warmth. The bandages that had covered her body began to unfurl. Each bandage was pulled away from her body, pulling around her as her body recovered.
6-4, Red Sox lead. Sweet.
Her wings extended out as she stood on all of her legs. She opened both her eyes to look up at the roaring dark creature, which seemed to be fading away as the light shined. The very existence of the creature seemed to be fading away, burning up with the bright light that surrounded her. The last bits of darkness that made up the creature disappeared as the light slowly began to fade. Fluttershy smiled softly as she looked down. Seeing on her chest in place of the lantern was now a golden necklace with a pink butterfly-shaped jewel. Her elemental necklace.
This might actually be the end of the story. The good end, at least.
Yeah. So, if you want us to read the other endings, too bucking bad.
No, if we get enough if we get enough people asking, we should do it. You know.
Yeah, but I don't know if I want to check out the other endings if this is the only good one. For a moment, the necklace glowed once more. A beam of light shot out, creating a doorway of light before her. Fluttershy looked at the doorway, knowing what it was. At the doorway of light, knowing what it was. My bad. "So, this is my way home now," she said, looking at the door once more. Once she passed through the archway of light, she would leave this world. She'd go back to Ponyville. She'd be able to take everything she had learned and live a better life than she had before. "I can't leave just yet," she smiled at the door before turning around and running away from the light. "I have 2 friends who are lost and need my help." Pinkie Pie lay on the ground, panting in exhaustion. "You've been running away oh so well. You're very good at it," the other Pinkie smiled, walking towards Pinkie. "You've killed me 3 times, yet here I am again. You must really want to be a part of my parties," the other Pinkie laughed.
Cupcakes.
"Is it the cupcakes, Pinkie?"
I'll take a wild guess and say yes.
Pinkie could only sob. This other Pinkie wanted to kill, and she couldn't stop her. What was the point of trying to stop her? She let Fluttershy go and get separated twice now. She was probably dead now with how injured she had been, and Rainbow Dash hated her. What was the point of trying to stop her other self from killing when she was just guilty of it herself? I'm sorry, Bellamina, Pinka sobbed, closing her eyes. Oh well, I guess I'll just have to take my time playing with you. The other Pinky smiled, picking up her butcher's knife as she drew closer. Now just hold it right there for 1 minute, came a motherly demand. Pinky and the other Pinky snapped their heads to the doorway to the room they were in. There stood a yellow Pegasus pony with long pink hair wearing a golden necklace. Hasn't your mother ever told you that it's not nice to hurt other ponies? Fluttershy stomped across the room towards the other Pinkie Pie. The normal Pinky was just staring with her mouth agape.
Durr.
Well, yeah, but I'm not really hurting them. I'm playing with them. The other Pinky laughed, putting down her butcher's knife to talk to Fluttershy. That's not how to play with other ponies. Fluttershy stood right at the other Pinky, looking her straight in the eye. You are going to seriously hurt my friend. You don't use knives or sharp objects when you play. You play nice games, like pin the tail on the pony or bobbing for apples. You should know better than this. But the other Pinky began to protest. No buts! You should be ashamed of yourself. I have a mind to tell your mother the kind of games you've been playing with other ponies. The other Pinky seemed to be shrinking back under the scolding of Fluttershy. Now you're going to take your little things and get rid of them, and I never want to ever catch you doing this again. You got that?
No one can resist the star! Ow.
The other Pinky could only nervously nod her head rapidly before picking up her butcher's knife and running away from Fluttershy.
That was amazing!
That's a good second Pinkie Pie, Fluttershy smiled happily, seeing the other Pinky run off, before turning to see that the real Pinky was staring at Shock and Fluttershy. How was that? I was so assertive. Fluttershy softly chuckled as she felt a happy shiver go down her back.
Holy fuck, that was amazing.
Pinkie Pie stared. It took a long time for her to even register what was going on, but once it dawned on her that Fluttershy had just scared her other self off, a smile formed on her face. It quickly began to grow before sound escaped her lips.
Laughter.
Pinkie Pie began to laugh. She laughed hard, rolling over on her back as her hooves flailed in the air. Fluttershy had scared away the other thing, that very thing that had scared her to the core. And she'd done it by just being Fluttershy. Pinkie couldn't help but laugh as her hair poofed out its usual curls.
Nerd.
It was one of the funniest things she'd ever seen.
That's amazing.
Thank you, Fluttershy said, smiling, giving a small bow to Pinkie Pie, accepting the laughing as a compliment.
Grr.
Oh, Fluttershy! Pinkie Pie laughed, finally rolling back under her hooves and rushing up, hugging her friend dearly. You're all better, and you saved me! Pinkie laughed joyously. Hey, what are friends for? Fluttershy grinned, returning the hug. Oh, speaking of friends, have you seen Rainbow Dash? Pinkie said, looking at Fluttershy with concern again. Don't worry, I found you first, but we're not leaving till we find her, Fluttershy smiled. Right, Operation Locate Dashy is go! Pinkie Pie smiled happily, saluting Fluttershy.
Captain. I'm gonna sit up, so can you tilt the screen back a bit?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, because I want to make sure they can see my face.
Oh, they can't see your face. Now they can. It really is for the best, a cold voice said. Yeah, it's what I've always wanted after all, Rainbow Dash tilting her head, closing her eyes as she agreed. I'm glad to see you've been able to follow your true heart then, the voice laughed. Rainbow Dash opened her eyes to look at the pony who stood before her. She looked just like one of the Shadow Bolts, the flying team she had seen in the Everfree Forest the day they had taken down Nightmare Moon. It's what I've always done. No point in changing that now, Rainbow said, slowly looking around. The two of them were sitting in the middle of a burning building, the fire staying just far away enough not to burn them. Good. Then just take my hoof, and everything will be made clear, the Shadow Bolt said, holding her hoof out to Rainbow Dash. Rainbow Dash looked at the hoop hesitantly. It didn't feel good. It didn't feel like the right thing to do, but she felt like it was the only thing she could do anymore. She slowly raised her hoop, reaching out carefully to take the Shadow Bolt's hoop. Dashy! Came an insanely cheerful voice as suddenly Rainbow Dash was suddenly tackled from behind, finding her against the ground. The Shadow Bolt gasped loudly. What the hey, Pinkie Pie? Rainbow shouted, annoyed, still being embraced by the pink mare. Oh my gosh, I thought I lost you. After you'd ran off, I was so worried about you. Then I tried to find Fluttershy, only I started running into the monsters I ran into before. Man, I was so depressed because of what you said that I couldn't help but start to relive my nightmare here. But that's all okay now, because I forgive you. And now I found you again, Pinkie cried out happily all at once. Yeah, that's great, Pinkie. But you're crushing me! Rainbow groaned as she tried to sit up, Pinkie finally sliding off her. Oopsie. Sorry about that, Pinkie laughed. And what are you doing here anyway? I thought you were supposed to go find Fluttershy. Rainbow Dash stopped herself as her eyes went wide. Fluttershy! Oh my gosh! I totally forgot! Rainbow said, looking around rapidly. What am I doing here? I have to find Fluttershy. It's okay, Dash. I'm already here, Fluttershy smiled happily, walking into the burning room from the hallway Pinkie just ran through at blinding speed. Fluttershy, you're okay, Rainbow said, galloping over and hugging Fluttershy. What was I thinking? You were right in front of me not too long ago, and I completely forgot I had to protect you. Fluttershy laughed, hugging Rainbow Dash back. It's okay, Dash. This place does weird things to a pony. Hey! The Shadow Bolt yelled, standing up and glaring at the three mares before her. All three turned their heads to look at the Shadow Bolts. What about your dreams? You won't accomplish them if you don't come with me, she growled.
2:30, don't you think we should start getting ready?
Yeah, in a few minutes. So let's finish this real quick.
Is your dad coming to get you?
No.
Rainbow Dash looked at Fluttershy. Fluttershy smiled back at her. Before Rainbow Dash grinned and turned to look at the Shadow Bolt. Tell you what. Keep it for now. I'll find a way to achieve my dream on my own. The Shadow Bolt yelled before turning into a puff of black smoke and disappearing into the burning building. And don't come back! Pinkie yelled happily, waving at the puff of black smoke. Fluttershy, I'm so sorry, Rainbow said again. I shouldn't have let this place get to my head and forget about protecting you. Dash then turned to Pinkie Pie, who was smiling at Dash. And Pinkie, I'm sorry I yelled at you. That wasn't right of me to do when you were only trying to help. That's okay, Dashy. I forgive you, Pinkie said, giving Rainbow Dash another hug. Let's just focus on getting out of here. I can handle that, Fluttershy smiled happily. She turned herself towards the hallway and stood proudly. Her golden necklace began to softly glow before releasing a beam of light that shot out before them. A doorway of light formed, their exit home. The necklace around Fluttershy's neck, having served its purpose, turned back into an orb of light, floating up into the air before disappearing. Alright, let's go home, Pinkie smiled happily. Yeah, I'm kind of tired of this place, Dash grinned. All of us are, Fluttershy smiled. The three mares continued to walk through the doorway of light together. The end.
That was something.
Holy biscuits and gravy. I couldn't find a better phrase.
That was a great story.
Seriously, biscuits and gravy, that was good.
It was amazing. Like, that Silent Hill is one of those things that can like, really pull on your heartstrings and make you question. And that really made me question a couple things.
I'm surprised that Fluttershy didn't end up killing her father based on the stories you told me.
Well, you know, I guess that, you know, she's too kind-hearted to do that.
Anyways, this is the end of our 200th video special, Silent Ponyville 2. This has been JTH.
Oh, Mr. Tails the Hero.
And we will see you in our next regular fanfiction reaction.
Yep.
We hope you enjoyed our 200th video special, and we will see you soon. Goodbye.